And call the meeting to order. Seventh meeting following the 2023 reorg. We're going to change things up a little bit tonight. I'm going to use a little chairman's prerogative. I'm going to ask Derek Guthrie from Walhalla 2 Precinct, Camp Oak Church of God, to come forward and say our invocation for the meeting tonight. And while he's coming up, I'll say that I had a suggestion a couple months ago from Lynn Morey to have each precinct pastor, or choose a pastor of their choice to come up and start giving the invocation for our meetings. So I'm gonna start doing that. So tonight, actually I'm gonna start doing it because my wife told me I need to start doing it at the Walhalla 2 Precinct meeting. But Lynn made the original suggestion, and so Derek is representing us on Walhalla 2, that is. In October, it's going to be Mountain Rest Baptist Church pastor that's going to be giving our invocation. Derek?
Heavenly Father, I thank you tonight. Lord, I thank you that we're able to come to the throne room of grace and glory for our request, Father. Lord, I ask tonight that you send your Spirit down to be in our midst. Lord, have him guide us, direct us, unite us tonight, Father God. Lord, let us speak in order to please you tonight, Father God. Lord, let us not put our faith in no man or no woman, because, Father, at the end, there's still just a man and a woman. And, Lord, I give you all honor, glory, and praise tonight, that you guide us, Lord, and you lead us where you need us to be tonight, Father. Lord, I ask that you touch the whole Republican Party, Father God, that we do things that are pleasing to you and not pleasing to our pride or our wallets. And, Father, I ask tonight that, Lord, you just touch our body in a mighty and special way. And, Father, I ask that you give us the traveling mercies on our way home, and to our next designated time that we must return, Father. I thank you, and I love you. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the sweet Holy Spirit. Amen and amen.
Amen. Thanks, Derek. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
If everybody would stand now, we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance. David Dial is going to take us there. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, David. Remain standing for the Republican Creed. Everybody have a copy? It's on the back of your agenda. Or you can find it in the platform booklet. The South Carolina Republican Creed. I do not choose to be a common man. It is my right to be uncommon. If I can seek opportunity, not security, I want to take the calculated risk to dream and to build, to fail and to succeed. I refuse to barter incentive for dole. I prefer the challenges of life to guaranteed security, the thrill of fulfillment to the stale calm of utopia. I will not trade freedom for benefits, nor my dignity for a handout. I will never cower before any master save my God. It is my heritage to stand direct, proud, and unafraid, to think and act for myself, enjoy the benefits of my creation, and face the whole world boldly and say, I am a free American. Thank you. Everybody can be seated. I want to recognize Sergeant Mulwee and Sergeant Crooks as our security night, and Army veteran Ryan Tennant as our Sergeant of Arms in the back. Thank you guys for coming. I want to ask Christopher Hall to come up real quick. He is the Regional Upstate Director for Tim Scott's campaign. And I want to give him a few minutes to just give us an update on where Tim Scott is in the campaign process and what their actions are. Come on up, Chris. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Christopher Hall. I'm the Upstate Field Director for Senator Tim Scott's presidential campaign. I've met most of you guys probably at a women's luncheon or a men's dinner, but I haven't been to a meeting yet, so I wanted to come and be with you guys this evening. The senator is, the momentum in South Carolina is growing. On Tuesday, we just released over 265 grassroots endorsements with an endorsement in all 46 counties of South Carolina. So we're growing. The campaign's strong. We're looking forward to next Wednesday, the debate in California. We believe he'll be strong and deliver. But if you're interested at all in getting involved in the campaign, please reach out to me. I'll be here afterwards. You can get in touch with me, and I can get you plugged into the campaign. So thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. And we're still working to get Senator Scott here. So we're not giving up on that. So maybe this is a little plug opportunity. It's a step in the right direction. Let's see, last thing with regards to announcements. I think that's everything. I just want to make sure. Okay. Well, then we're going to go to roll call by precinct. Some of you guys like to know we're going to do it a little different. I even throw something in here for Mr. David Dial to have to handle. Okay? We're not going to do any icebreaker tonight, but we're going to answer a roll call a little bit different. When he calls out your precinct, I want you to respond with your favorite game. Okay? And I'm not talking about a sports game. Okay, I'm talking about a rainy day game. So some game, board game you played, could be yard darts, maybe it's tic-tac-toe, chess, whatever it is, you respond with your favorite game. You got that, David? He's thinking about what his favorite board game is. So David, go ahead and do roll call.
All right, folks, listen up, please. Bountyland?
Bountyland, and I love to play Mahjong.
Okay. Earl's Grove. Earl's Grove. Fair Play.
Linda Duffy, and I love to play cards.
Friendship.
Rachel Moore, Monopoly.
Holly Springs.
Poker.
Kiowee.
Yes, Monopoly.
Long Creek.
Hold'em.
Texas.
Madison.
Battleship.
Mountain Rest.
On a rainy day, I try to out-argue my wife.
I hear you. Newry.
Sandy Mason, Risk.
New Hope.
Spades.
Oakway.
Jed Romney.
Ravenel. Ravenel. Return.
Solitaire.
Richland. Poker. Salem.
What'd you say, David? Was that you, Richland?
Poker.
Richland, that was quick.
Poker. Salem.
Solitaire.
Seneca 1. Seneca 1. Seneca 2.
Here, almost any card game.
One time I met John at a community facility. He'd been playing cards all day. He was late coming out to meet me. Seneca 3.
Spin the bottle.
Seneca 4.
Candy Crush.
Shiloh. Shiloh. South Union.
All kinds of cards.
Stamp Creek.
Monopoly.
Tomasi.
Horseshoe.
Takina. Utica. Utica. Wahala 1.
Settlers.
Wahala 2.
Rummy.
Oh, bingo.
West Union.
Bridge.
Westminster 1.
Cribbage.
And Westminster 2.
Card.
All right, very good.
All right. Kathy, what do you like to play? I know you want
Bunko.
to. All right. And I like to play a game called Empire Builders. It's an old board game. That's my favorite game to play. And he gets mad because it just goes on and on when we play. All right. Next thing on the agenda is adoption of the proposed agenda. Can I have a motion to accept the agenda as it's written for tonight?
Real quick, Jim, what was the roll call?
Sorry.
Out of the 31 precincts in the county, 25 are here and 6 are not here.
Okay. Thank you, Randy. Can I have a motion to approve the agenda? Second? All in favor? Aye. Okay, we'll move forward. Thank you. Next is the approval of the August 17th and September 6th Executive Committee minutes. Now, there were some revisions that came in for the August 17th minutes, and Kathy has made those revisions that were requested. But if there's no further revisions and no discussion, could I have a motion to approve the minutes on both those meetings as amended?
Westminster one, Terry.
Terry Myring, do I have a second? Second, Sean Tilson. Seneca 3. All in favor? Aye. Thank you. Moving on, this is a second change in the agenda or our monthly meetings that I'd like to put in place. The
Still
next,
have a September 6th agenda meeting, minutes.
I thought we did both of them at once.
Oh, did we?
Yes,
Okay, sorry.
yes. We did both of them at once, Kathy, sorry. So the next thing is we're going to add in sponsors' comments. So as you guys know, David's been working hard to bring in sponsors, and those people make contributions to the party. And if you're a sponsor, you contribute to the party, and you'd like to have a couple minutes to address the committee, Mr. Wagner is going to be our first one, and it's probably fitting because he's probably the most long-standing member of this party. So he's going to come up and give a short response to Mr. Hill's presentation. John?
I'm a firm believer in term limits and time limits, so I'm not going to take more than 5 minutes and probably less. Mr. Hill made some good points, but there were a couple of things he said that bothered me a little bit, so I'd like to just mention those. He said over and over again, the key mission of the party is to hold firm to the platform and get rid of politicians who don't. There's a little bit of a problem with that because I've talked to a lot of different Republicans from a lot of different points of view, and every single one of them says they support the platform. So the big question here, what is the platform? It's a general document stating generalized goals, objectives, where we want the party to go. It is not a blueprint. It's not a roadmap. It doesn't have specific actions or legislation. So we have a whole bunch of solutions that are proposed by the Freedom Caucus, and we have other solutions that are proposed by other factions. So the question is there only one way to achieve platform goals? I'm old, so I know some old proverbs. One of those is there's more than one way to skin a cat. I never have figured out why anybody would want to skin a cat, but if you do, there's obviously more than one way to do it. Another old proverb is the devil is in the details. So it seems like what the Freedom Caucus has done, and I support a lot of what the Freedom Caucus believes in, but they seem to think anyone who has a different plan or a different tactic to get to those goals. If you drove here tonight from anywhere, there were probably multiple routes you could have taken. And some of them may have been faster, some of them may have been longer. I ended up in Walhalla, and there was some kind of a parade, and I had to take a detour. So I don't know what was going on in Walhalla tonight. But there may be several pathways to get where you want to go. Another point is that life is complicated. There are no simple or easy answers. Almost everything that is proposed has unintended consequences. The example that's always used, we have free speech, but you can't go into a crowded theater and yell fire. Religious freedom seems obvious, but if my wife had a friend working at Clemson University, she never married because that was from a Muslim family, and she told my wife, if I married someone who's not a Muslim, my father would kill me. Is that religious freedom? There are problems with all of these things. So, different, I respect the Freedom Caucus. I respect anybody that gets up and expounds their beliefs and tries to convince people, but I don't believe that they're the only Republican position. And I think what we need to do as a party is to listen to all people to find out how they propose to reach these platform goals. And it's not my way or the highway. Let the free market decide. Debate these ideas, and then the party should figure out which is the best way to actually achieve this. You may remember, if you're as old as me, Ronald Reagan won 49 states. And he did that basically by saying, if you agree with me 80% of the time, you're my friend. So that's what I would hope the Republican Party would do. You win elections by adding, not subtracting. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Unfortunately, I wasn't here for Jonathan Hill's presentation, but he also spoke at the Oconee County Republican Women's Group last week and had a good reception there. We're not all going to agree on everything, that's for sure. I remember something John Wagner said, I think it was the last meeting I was here. He said, when I come here and everybody votes the same way, that's when I'm out of here, or I'm leaving the party, or something like that. So John likes debate, and I think debate's healthy, and it helps us to see other perspectives. So in the chairman's report, I want to talk about some precinct meetings that have been going on, and I've been invited to attend, and I've enjoyed that. On September 11th, I went to the Kiwi precinct meeting, and they set the bar for everybody. I can tell you that. They had a spread. I think they had 15 people that showed up for that meeting, and David and I took a Q&A, and some of them were rough on us. So, but it was good. It was a good meeting, and one of the things they hammered us on was how come you guys haven't hit us up for sponsorship yet, or sending out money requests. And so we took money in that night. we acted promptly that night and the Kiwi meeting. And Pat Murray was there as the district director, and it was all in all, it was a good meeting. And I enjoy those type of precinct meetings, and I want to encourage everybody to get their precincts involved. We've got good involvement at these executive committee meetings. They had good involvement at the precinct meeting, and the precinct was able to talk about the path forward and ask David and I questions and challenges on a few points, and we accept those challenges that they put forth, primarily about membership and growing the party at the precinct level, and what's our strategy going to be. And Rachel will talk more about that, but the district directors are taking that on. The next one I went to, the September 13th Walhalla 2 precinct meeting. There were 11 people at that meeting, and it was at Trailhead right here in Walhalla. And that was a good discussion. And it centered around resolutions and the process and going forward. We're going to be looking at a resolution that's still out there from Mountain Rest today. Then September 14th, we had a district directors meeting. I didn't even go. I didn't get invited. to attend. I think that was intentional, which is fine, because the district directors, we got them in place now, and their job is really to pull information from the precincts, and so we can be more of a bottom-up organization and get people involved in making decisions at the precinct level. So the last thing I want to mention in the chairman's report is you can see on the table back here, there is eliminate risk in South Carolina elections. Laura Dowling sitting right back there in the back. And I'd like everybody to pick one of these up and consider it. Give us some feedback. In the October meeting, we may like to invite her based on the feedback to give us a little bit of a presentation. And how do we make the South Carolina election process more robust and prevent anything similar to what we all feel certain happened in 2020? So please take one of her handouts, read through it, give the party some feedback at the Oconee Republicans email, and let us know, and we'll look to put her on the agenda for October. Okay, that's all I have. Rachel? Go ahead.
So he stole half my thunder, but that's okay. That means I get to tell you some other stuff. So we did have we actually had 2 district directors meetings, one with 4 and one with one person who couldn't come the night before, and got their feedback. And the consensus on the number one thing to do that would make the biggest impact right away is for the district directors to get with their precincts and hold these precinct meetings. Jim and David have graciously said that they will be available for those meetings. And so your district director will be getting with you to try to get everybody scheduled. So that's the number one priority. The number 2 priority that came up was about events. And the conversation was, let's put together a process and a calendar that has the events scheduled out. The suggestion was by district, but then we'll also, I'm sure, have an overall calendar. And part of the feedback that will come from these precinct meetings is what would you guys like to see? What do y'all want to have happen? Because we do want good input on the things that we're going to spend time and money and effort on. So that's the second thing, and our next meeting will be to build a process around that will be easily understood and easily followed. And now I would like to ask Pat, being the only district director here today, would you like to say a few words?
Sure. That was a good question. My name is, let me stand up.
You can come up here, Pat.
We're going to down, up.
Right there.
I'm in the middle. How about that? Is that good? For those of you that don't know me, my name is Pat Murray. And the thing that I want to thank Kiwi, because I told Teresa tonight they set the bar. I have reached out to all of the precinct presidents. We are working to get at least 2 dates such that Jim's schedule, David's schedule, and my schedule, we can marry those up such that we can be at these meetings. So District 1 has already started that process. I can't speak to any of the other districts, but we look forward to working with you because our entire role is going to be working with the precincts It's like Rachel said, what do you need from the party? Let us help you. And so, from my perspective, I look forward not only to working in District 1, but working with all of the other district directors as we move this party forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Pat. All right, next on the agenda is the treasurer's report. David?
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chair, appreciate that. All right, well, along with the agenda and all in your packet, you had a financial statement for August, and we started August 1st with $7,119.32 in the bank. We had $430 worth of revenue come in. Our expenses were $600, and we closed August 31st out with $6,949.32. Okay? And then just a kind of a review about some other stuff going on. Jim mentioned the sponsorship update. We want to first talk about the Apple Fest, the fundraiser we had there. That's the first one I've been to, and I set it up and I managed it the entire time we were there. The total we raised at that Apple Fest was $371. We had merchandise priced between $2 and $8. We had 46 sales, and the average sale for each of the folks that bought stuff was or donated $8.06. And one of the notes here that I want to make is we had 25 Trump 24 hats, and 24 of those 25 sold out. So that was something kind of a surprise. Now I want to give a sponsorship update about something. Again, my goal, and I wanted to do this for a long time, is to create a monthly sponsorship fund. I want it to be, I want to generate monthly revenue moving forward, so whoever it is, whether it's me or someone else, every month can sit down and have a known list of folks to reach out to sponsor. So each month I mail out at least 11 sponsorship packets. I've figured that up and know what basically that average income will be. I started the program in July, and through August I've sent out 22 packets. Of those 22, one was returned due to a potential sponsor moving. Of the remaining 21, 14 were returned. Through August, the return percentage is about 67%, and the total we raised in those 2 months, just in sponsorships, is $1,585. Of the 11 packets I prepare, I do so many every Sunday or every Saturday morning. I get up, turn on the computer, do some stuff there, and then I pick. Of the 11 packets I prepare, 7 go to existing sponsors, 2 go to executive committeemen and presidents sitting around this table, and 2 go to potential sponsors. And I reach out to various sources, and I'll send 2 to just new people that went to the convention. So I'm preparing and mailing sponsor packets in a planned way, and eventually all of you who have not received one will receive one. It's a effortless process. There's a stamped addressed envelope in there. You just fill out your check if you want to, and then put it in there and with your sponsorship information, so I can put it into the database. If you'd like to receive a packet faster, just send me an email and I will certainly get it to you. As Jim we went to the Kiowee precinct meeting, and there were people there chomping at the bits to be sponsors, and I mean, I was just getting hammered because I hadn't sent anything out to them, but they've got them now. So anyway, I want to thank you for your support. And in the back here, there's some water. It's flavored water. It got lemon or wild berry, and some other water came in. It's in the back, and it's for a $2 donation. So thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks, David. Any questions for David on the financial report?
There's one back here.
Are we planning on doing something at Oktoberfest?
Yes, we are, but there is an issue there going on right now. They actually have told us, and I don't want to get too much detail about it, we'll send something out later on. They've actually told us that if you're a political organization, you cannot sell anything. So we're working through that. And now I'll give out more about that later. I got to find out more.
So, a good question. We plan to duplicate, no, I'm sorry. Let me address him first, Donnie, and I'll get with you. We plan to duplicate what we did at the Apple Festival. And if you guys remember back in 21, I think the party sold probably over $2,000 worth of stuff at Oktoberfest. So it was kind of a shocker. They made a change in their rules, and we're petitioning for the opportunity to still sell our Republican memorabilia.
You answered it, yeah.
Okay, yes. So Ian's working on that. Derek, question?
Can we take donations at Oktoberfest?
That's one of the angles we're taking. So, yeah, that's one of the angles we're taking as opposed to selling. You can make a donation and pick from the table. So we're working that one. Yes, thank you. Any other questions with regards to that? Yes, Ms.
I apologize for not looking into the finances, but what's our monthly expenditure versus your income?
Well, again, this is just July and August. And as I stated, we've taken in July and August, we've taken in $1,585, okay? In the month of August, we had $600 worth of expenses, and I'd have to go back, and I've only printed out August.
So
Our revenue is exceeding our expenditure since the convention.
But in general, our monthly expenses, if I could step in, relate to this meeting, relate to security. I'm sure we paid for the Westminster Apple Festival registration fee. So those are in general, but recurring monthly expenses mostly relate to our meetings and then any events that we hold. Yes, Mr. Tilson.
So is there any plan to rely on electronic form of payment, like Venmo or Square or something? I don't have checks. I haven't had checks in 20 years. So
I was going to ask that same thing.
is there a plan so that you can electronically donate?
We've already got a PayPal site set up, and I'm looking, it's just been a busy week, I'm looking at another source called WinRed. It's basically run by a Republican friendly company, and we're just seeing which one, because both of them have got expenses based on donating. So we've got the PayPal set up. I'm looking into the WinRed, find out which one is the cheapest, and then we'll figure it out. But yes, we're looking into it.
Yeah, the goal would be to put it on the website.
Absolutely.
And hit the button, donate now, and make your contribution. So we want to make it easy.
Well, I need the paperwork still, though. If you fill it out, I still need that sponsor.
We're going to take it one step at a time. Yeah, so getting checks, cash is always welcome. I mean, we're not turning that away. Gold, we take gold coins. So, we're not going to be picky.
We take copper ones, too.
Yeah. We don't take rubenes or anything like that, so. U.S. currency. Yes, Terry.
Okay, one last thing on Apple Fest. The winner of the autographed Trump hat was a woman named Becky Owens, and I delivered the hat to her. And I know she was excited.
She live around here?
I'm not.
Oh, okay. I mean, she live in Oconee County?
Yes,
okay.
yes, she does.
There was a lot of out-of-state traffic at the Apple Festival. I was surprised at that, how much there was. Any more questions on the finances? All right, moving on to old business. The first thing on the agenda is the Mountain Rest Precinct, combating trafficking resolution. So I'm gonna let Donnie come up.
Kate's asked me to speak for the Mountain Rest. We had our monthly meeting and discussed it. It was Jim, who's part of his staff, that suggested maybe we would consider adding teeth to it or amending it, or we even discussed like a letter campaign. We're satisfied with what we proposed, and we'd like to re-propose it as is. We're not objectable to changing the document and adding more teeth to it. But where we're standing, we're happy. If the rest of the ECs or precincts want to add more to it to make it have more weight, that's fine. Not there. feeling is that the letter campaign is not going to carry as much weight as if it actually comes from the county party. Our congressmen and senators, you know, full well, have a staff, and every letter comes in, they open it up, and they file. They never see it. You know, they'll tally up, you got so many, you know, letters probably about this subject or that subject. They don't have the time to read all this, but if we unify and send one document to them, and it goes down to Columbia, you know, and then if it gets ratified there, then I think it would have more weight. And I do understand that there's a similar bill already for what we're asking to be done. We're well aware of that. We're basically looking at this as a kicking their asses to get them to sit up, you know, get them to do something, is what we're asking them to do. But sending this forward, that's all we're asking. Because we don't expect them to run two bills through at the same time, to basically say the same thing. We're just asking them to get off their butts and do something. If there's already a bill down there, you know, it's already been down there at least 2 months, because this was brought up 2 months ago. Why should it take that long? This is pretty serious. We've had it, I went to a briefing with the HSI and Crenshaw. This is serious stuff. And if we don't kill it now, it's only going to get worse. You know, best time to kill the weeds is when they're small. So if we wait too long, next thing you know, it's just going to grow and grow. So that's where we're at. We're not opposed to amending it and adding more to it. We're not particularly keen on the idea of a letter writing campaign. I don't think it'll have the same weight. That's where we're at.
All right, thank you, Donnie. Thank you, Mountain Rest. So, does everybody have a copy of the resolution that we're discussing? We had copies on the table. Does everybody have a copy of it to look at? Should look
Here,
something.
still over at the table.
Should look like this. So I need a motion to open discussion on this before we take a vote. Could I have a motion to open discussion on the Mountain Rest
Make a
resolution?
motion to open discussion.
Second? Doug Musick, second. All right. I want to open discussion on the Mountain Rest resolution to combat trafficking. Again, this was presented previously, and the recommendation was to go back and kind of condense it a little bit, but the precinct has the option to just send it back the way it is. They put a lot of time and thought into drafting it the way it is, and so they're sending it back for a vote by the executive committee. And let me say that we have to vote on this tonight and hustle it to get it to the state party by tomorrow, because that's the deadline for consideration by the resolutions committee before the September 30th state executive committee, okay? All right, so the floor is open for discussion on this resolution.
I'd like to ask the question, is there any particular reason, I've been called myself, I don't know about Kathy, but I've been personally called twice from residents in the community wondering why this was not sent up so it could have been sent out with the agenda so everybody would already have had a chance to read it. Is there any particular reason you didn't send it up to us so we could have added it to the agenda?
Jim and I have a copy of it. They actually mailed me a copy to verify what they had was the same as what I have.
We have a copy.
The county already had it.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, we have a copy. Maybe we should have sent it out, David,
Okay.
for consideration.
All right.
But we sent it back to Mountain Rest, and then we confirmed earlier this week that, I was actually last week when Ronnie told me at the meeting, Donnie told me at the meeting that they weren't going to modify it. And then I just wanted to confirm that the version that we had was what they were looking at.
All right.
So, but we do have copies tonight, and it is something that was reviewed previously, and it has not been changed.
Okay. Oh, it hadn't been changed, okay.
Not been changed at all. Any other questions or discussion? Yes, Doug.
Well, I spoke about this at the last meeting, and I have problems with 4 areas in this thing. Number one is, the number one problem we have with child trafficking right now is our open southern border. And this doesn't address that at all. And that should be the first whereas in there, identifying what the biggest problem we have. The next thing I've got down there is item 5 down there, cooperate with NGOs. The NGOs, 80 or 90% of the NGOs down there are making the problem worse. How are they showing up with cell phones and clean clothes at the border after coming all the way up here? It's the NGOs, particularly Catholic Charities is one of the worst ones for doing this. If I just put in there, cooperate with NGOs, I brought this up last time, you better identify which NGO you want to work with.
What's an NGO?
Non-government organizations. Okay. Then item 2 and item 6 in there again, I think it goes against Republican principles to expand social welfare programs, and I think it's also encouraging people in South America and Latin America to send kids unescorted. They know they're going to come in here and get all these education programs and all this other stuff. It just encouraging them to be abused, encouraging them to go through a very risky procedure. I'm definitely against child trafficking, but I think we have to be careful how we word this thing. If it's going to be put up this way, my vote's going to be no.
Thank you, Doug. All right, so there's a vote. There's a discussion point against. Do I have one for it? Obviously, probably there's sufficient support for it. How about any other comments? John, Mr. Wagner?
Just a comment on the southern border thing. This is going to the South Carolina legislature. They can't do anything about the southern border.
They can help. Other states do.
But we need to identify what the problem is too. And that's our biggest problem.
All right.
I would like to ask to hear from our county EC woman, since she's closer to information like this and her thoughts.
You would like to hear from Ms. Myring, the State Executive Committee woman?
Do you think? Well, I think everybody in this room would have to say we are definitely against child trafficking. What I think is very important was I sent along a 115-page report from the State Attorney General's office, who has been on this since 2012, and a lot of it was a lot of study. And a lot of the implementation has started in this year and will be next year. And there's an awful lot of solutions already in place right now. So what my question would be is the bill number that we're looking to support, is that in here? And second of all, what is the actionable item that we're trying to get legislation on? Are we just saying, hey, do you know that this is happening, or what is our actionable request? What are we asking them to do?
Okay, thank you. Do I have any other arguments for or against? I saw you in the back, but actually this is only a time for discussion for the Executive Committee. Public comment, we'll give you opportunity at the end.
That's right.
All right, thank you. I don't mean to discount your... Rainey?
So this resolution came out right after the movie Sound of Freedom, which spurred a whole lot of interest in child trafficking. But I did some research online today, and Fabian Marta, a guy from Missouri who was one of the largest backers of the movie, was arrested in August for child trafficking.
Really?
And just this week, Tim Mallory, the star of the show, has been accused of molesting some of the people he was trying to help.
Are you accused? I think I read the case, but not convicted.
He's accused this week, so who knows what happened.
Yeah, we probably, yeah.
So we get stirred up by something, and then we find out the people that are behind it.
But that hasn't been proven yet. That's been proven.
It could be today.
It came on media today, and
About
I think that actually solidifies this document and the statement of the issues that's going on. I do agree with Doug. Maybe we should strike out 2 and 6. But this is more, you asked what action are we asking? We do not know the route that they're pursuing this at the state level. We're just asking them to expedite it and do something that we can see some tangible evidence that they're moving forward on resolving the child trafficking issue. But I do have to disagree with Doug on thinking that the southern border is the major cause. It's actually drugs that's the major cause.
That's the southern border.
Atlanta's one of the largest hubs for...
Hey, excuse me. We're going to have one person talk at a time. And address your comments to the chair, please.
Those drugs are actually being used in every state, whether they're coming across from Canada or from Mexico or from the Gulf or Atlantic. That's the biggest problem.
All right.
If we move forward with this, that problem will become more noticeable. But I think this is a good opportunity for us to say, hey, we want to see some movement in this area, do something.
Thank you, Mickey. All right. Next, Kathy.
I'm just curious as to, do we know how prevalent it is in South Carolina? Or is this like a preventative measure to keep it from becoming a major issue? I mean, I know it's probably going on the interstate and all of that, but is there any statistics of where we are in the...
I can somewhat answer to that. I went to Salem High School, so we had a lot of students from Tomasi at the DAR school. A large majority of those DAR students were violated. So yes, this problem is here. And just because we live outside of those environments doesn't mean that it doesn't happen here. So we cannot be naive. You know, I'm sure we don't see the drug usage that goes on in this county. One of the big eye openers for me is when I came out of service and went to work down here at Oconee County Law Enforcement. I never realized what went on in Westminster and Seneca was as bad as what it was during my time down there.
Thank you. Thank you, Kathy. Thank you, Mickey. Sandy?
So Atlanta is one of the largest hubs in the U.S. for sex trafficking. Sex trafficking does not necessarily come from the southern border. It actually comes from other countries, or we export to other countries our victims from the U.S. And Atlanta is one of the largest hubs. They get to Atlanta and then they transport by ground. And that's how it is impacting here. I used to live in Gwinnett, and my church that I attended there was heavily involved in helping victims of sex trafficking and rescue the lot. And the church in and of itself, and that really is the responsibility of the church, help with rehabilitation of those. And it was one of the mega churches. So we really have the resources to do it. But it is really coming, I would say, what we're seeing is not coming from the southern border. That is drugs. That's our big problem from there. But it is coming from Atlanta.
Thank you, Sandy. I think we can all understand from the discussion back and forth, it depends on your point of view and your perspective and where you're getting your information. So, Mike?
Yeah, there's a woman that goes to our church, and she's been very involved in this for years. She's a lawyer. Okay. I can't remember her name right now, the organization she belongs to, but if you are interested in becoming involved, because she's always looking for volunteers to help, okay? If you get the word out, I'll be happy if you get the information to me, your information to me, and I'll share that with you and put you in contact with her. I think I gave you her information. I gave somebody the information that was interested at one point. So if you reach out to me, I'll be happy to provide that.
Ms. Myrie, Westminster 1.
Yeah, again, going back to that 115-page report. So again, the state divided the state into 5 different zones, and just in our zone, which does not include Greenville, it's, like Pickens, Oconee, Anderson, there are 3 different agencies that are identified. There are, and that was another thing too, is they wanted to put into place basically attorneys who would specialize in this and also represent for free. So there's a lot of things that have been put into place, and statistic-wise, again, this was all as of 22, but the worst thing that the children were being trafficked for was not the sex, it was the labor.
Thank you. All right, any other discussion? Any other discussion?
I'd like to amend the motion on the floor to remove item number 2 and 6. 5. No, not 5, 2 and 6.
So Mickey has a motion to amend by removing number 2 and removing number 6. Is that correct,
That is
Mickey?
correct.
So everything else stays the same. Okay, so we have a motion on the floor with a second from Walhalla 1 to remove 2 and number 6. All right, so that means we got to go to a discussion on that motion to remove 2 and 6. Do I have any other comments on
I
that?
make a motion to end discussion and move for a vote.
On this amendment?
Yes.
Okay, so I have a motion to end discussion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second. All in favor to end discussion, and we'll vote on this amendment? Raise your hand. I want to make sure we got a majority. Okay. So we're going to vote on the amendment to this resolution for Mountain Rest by removing number 2 and removing number 6. Okay. All in favor of the amendment put forth by Mr. Haney from Salem, please raise your hand. Okay. Kathy, can you get a count? Looks like it's a majority.
Might have been unanimous.
Okay, thank you. Motion carries. So we now have an amended resolution. Do we have any discussion on the amended resolution, Mr. Bond?
I'd like to make a motion that we strike item 5.
So we have a motion now to strike number 5 by Mr. Bond. And we have a second by Doug Musick, Sand Creek. Okay, we'll open the discussion for making this second amendment to this resolution. Mr. Hollingsworth, Holly Springs?
Could we get some kind of explanation as to why you want to remove those 3, 2, 3, and 5? They look like they make sense to me.
Well, we just had a discussion on the first amendment and that passed. So this would be a discussion just on number 5, just on removing number 5.
Okay.
Okay? Yes?
The NGOs,
Karen?
the non-governmental organizations are usually the better ones to work with. Any government agency is going to be the most expensive and the least effective way to do it. So I don't know that the NGOs wouldn't be better to work with.
Okay, so that's an argument for.
I mean, you can keep the Catholic Social Services on.
Yes.
I would feel more comfortable if it said selected NGOs, not just open-ended, because NGOs are the people that are flying to people all over the country.
Okay, I'm going to take that as a discussion point, not an amendment to the amendment right now. Yeah, but I hear what you're saying. Donnie?
Can I speak for Mountain Rest?
Yes, he has a proxy for Mountain Rest.
All right.
So,
Our feeling
to speak.
for NGOs is same when we had a briefing from HSI and Crenshaw, is a lot of these crimes are not being reported because fear in the communities that this crime is being committed in. The NGOs, particularly the churches, provide an umbrella of protection for these people. And they're getting a lot of their information from these NGOs. If you exclude them, you're closing the door on a possible avenue of tracking these criminals down. And you're discouraging the victims from coming forward.
Okay, thank you, Donnie. Rainey?
So fostering partnerships with NGOs, we're asking our legislators to give more government money to programs that they cannot control. And I think that's just way outside of our power.
Okay, right. John, is this argument 4?
Yeah, this is not open-ended. It says that we're going to foster partnerships with organizations that have experience in combating child trafficking. So it's not everybody, it's those that it's restricted.
Thank you, John. Yes, Ms. Byron.
What I would possibly offer to add in there is maybe add in there as, again, there's been a lot of work done to identify who has already received the training and the funding. So maybe if we just add as identified by the Attorney General's office.
Or the task force.
Yes. Again, there's been an awful lot of work. Why not support the people that have already been vetted and have received the training, right?
Okay, is that a motion to, yes, Karen?
If the government funds them, then they have to change all their rules from being a private company. Like Collins Children's Home does not take any government money. You know, I mean, I don't know why they have to give them money if they can, if they're going to change their way of doing business and not be as effective. I'd rather have them just help them in other ways, and I don't know how that could happen. I'm really against charities that are government funded because I know they're not effective. So it kind of is saying, well, give them money and then they won't be effective. You know, it's a double-edged sword.
So does this...
Thank you, Karen. Ms. Mason?
Does this partnership mean that, or does it say that the government, that we're providing money? A partnership isn't necessarily providing funding. So that's where, I mean, can it be added, non-monetary?
Well, I think we're getting in the weeds first. The first thing we need to do is vote to remove this or not to remove it. And then after we vote on that original amendment, then we could go back and vote on amending number 5. So it sounds like we're moving in 2 different directions. So I would say the first thing we need to do is vote whether we exclude it. If we vote not to exclude it, then we can open the floor for discussion or for a motion to amend that particular number. Mickey?
Mr. Chair, I think what we're trying to do is clarify what these partnerships look like. Caleb House would be a good one. They actually work with the FBI and other law enforcement agencies to help track down these traffickers. They receive no federal or state funding. So this, this is something that our lawmakers, we're just telling them key points we want to look at. This is something lawmakers can figure out how to achieve these goals that they so desire. So let's not lose the intent of this document. The intent of this document is saying, hey, we want to see some results. That's the intent of this document.
Okay. So I would ask for a motion to close discussion, and let's vote first on excluding this or from striking this or including it. So could I have a motion to close discussion on closing this or moving it? Mr. Santa Claus, we have Santa Claus. Would a motion to close discussion, I second? Mickey Haney, a second? All right. All in favor of closing discussion, raise your hand, please. That's almost unanimous. Okay, we'll go for a vote for number 5 remaining in the document. If you want to, no, actually the motion was to remove it, strike it. So we're going to vote yay to strike it. Yes would be to strike it. No would be to leave it in the document. Okay, does everybody understand? A yes vote, we're going to get rid of it. A no vote, we're going to keep it. All right, so a vote yes to remove it from the resolution. Please show of hands. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 saying to remove it. Okay, did you get that, Kathy?
Yep.
All right, vote no, leave it in the document. Raise your hand, please. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. 14, does that sound right? So that Motion carries. Motion is denied, I'm sorry. Number 5 stays in the document. Okay, next thing we need to do is probably get back to, is there any, I need a motion that's for any kind of amendment to number 5. Or do we leave it as is? Right now, with no motion being brought forth, we would leave it as it is written. So there's been a lot of discussion about making a change to it, but right now, it's on the floor as is.
Chairman, I call for the question on the document.
Call for the question on
Amended document.
on the amended document, which is the removal of 2 and removal of number 6, correct? David?
I second.
Second, calling for the question. All in favor, raise your hand. We're going to vote on this. Looks unanimous. Okay, so the vote is to approve this resolution from Mountain Rest with the amendment of removing number 2 and number 6. Everybody agree? Okay, so a yes vote is we approve it, no vote is we deny it. And it doesn't both go forward to the state. All right, all in favor of this resolution going forward and being submitted to the state tonight with the modification of removing 2 and 6, please raise your hand. All right. I see a unanimous decision. All right, thank you. So Terry's got her work cut out for her, working with Mountain Rest to get it revised, signed, and sent no later than tomorrow? Or, yeah.
Yes, it has to be in tomorrow.
Has to be in tomorrow. Okay. We already have one resolution up there at the state that's going to be considered. That was for the Freedom Caucus and Republican Caucus working together. All right, thank you for everybody's work and the discussion on that. It's good discussion. Okay, the next thing on the agenda is the cancellation of the October 6th fundraiser. So I need a motion to open up the floor for discussion on that.
Make a motion.
Motion, I have a second? David? All right. So the floor is open for discussion for any questions or comments on our cancellation of the October 6th fundraiser, which was to host Drew McKissick, and we would have a meal at the Walhalla Depot. Yes, Mr. Nix from Walla One.
The recommendation was to cancel it from the steering committee, correct?
No, the steering committee had input on that. The recommendation, the officers actually got together first and discussed it. And then we didn't make a decision until the steering committee met on Thursday. But there was strong inclination to cancel it before the steering committee got together and discussed it.
I thought I saw an email on it that said it was going to be canceled.
I don't know. If that email did come from the party, I don't think so. Okay, any other comments on that? Or questions? Yes, Mr. Musick, Stamp Creek.
Well, my question is, have you canceled it, or are we voting on whether we're going to cancel it?
No, we canceled it. There was a email that went out that we canceled it.
So
we're not voting on whether or not we cancel it or not, David. The question is there discussion that needed to be had at the executive committee level about why we canceled it or anything like that? So I'm sorry, I misunderstood you. Yes, David.
So I think the overwhelming discussion after the fact, the aftermath was the price was too high for regular people. I think Josh hit that nail on the head in the phone call. I think most of us didn't want to be obstinate and vote against it to give you guys a leeway to go try to plan it, but once it was fleshed out, there was agreement in the steering committee that it was probably too expensive for the regular person. That's my feedback.
Right, the steering committee, they were 100% supportive of canceling it. That's correct. This is one of those instances that John Wagner brought up earlier. When you get most everybody voted for that, we ought to question maybe something's missing. So there was some concern that, Sean brought it up on the call that we had already reserved the depot, which, by the way, David, did we get that money back?
Yes, we did.
So we got the money back from the depot this week. And so there was some concern that we kind of moved forward too quickly on that, and as we looked at planning it, we found out we moved forward too quickly on that. Okay? So that's really the bottom line. We just couldn't execute in a way that would be successful. And there were concerns, like David mentioned, about the price point. So, Rainey?
So moving forward, what's the next opportunity for an event?
The next opportunity is after when the district directors get together and get with the precincts, and we're going to figure out what type of event it needs to be that can gain more support from the party as a whole. So I think Gwen Fowler had a great suggestion, and I know and she is one of the district directors.
McPhail.
I'm sorry, Gwen McPhail. Yeah, had a great suggestion, which was for a red, white, and blue gala at the farm center, and we cook hammers and hot dogs. Okay, but there's other suggestions that came from the floor as well. So I think that's where it's going to come from, and then the executive committee can adhere to what the district directors would want. But we are going to do a fundraiser, guaranteed. I think one thing my takeaway is the executive committee is ready for a fundraiser. The party's ready for a fundraiser, and we're going to do it. We just got to get better planning in place to get it done. Okay. Any other questions on that? We'll close the discussion. All in favor of closing the discussion on that, or are there other questions? All right, discussion closed. October 10th and 12th, County Council Town Hall. To date, 2 councilmen have confirmed. So that date is going to be on October 10th. There are only 2 councilmen that have confirmed, and that is Councilman Davis and Councilman Elliott. That will be here at this facility. It's already reserved. Riley Morningstar is still going to moderate that town hall, and it will be open for discussion. The 10 format, the format for it will not change. So it'll be open for discussion, open for submission of questions, and there'll be an advertisement put in the paper by the party, and probably by the Democratic Party too, because they're also going to attend. There will be an advertisement in the paper for your questions for that town hall to be submitted to the paper. Riley Morningstar is going to work through the questions, combine, and bring them all together for the town hall. They'll be selected at random. And that will be here. So I would appreciate some good attendance at that. I think it's going to be good town hall. And then we're going to give the other council members an opportunity to have a district, if they're interested, have a district-specific town hall. Okay. Now, is there some discussion on the floor? We can open the floor for discussion about that. Yes, Doug?
You've only got 2 people that have agreed to come. How long ago was the invitation put out? Do we anticipate getting anybody else?
The deadline was Tuesday night. The original invitation went out August 8th, and there was some conditions that were put on the response back from the chairman, Matt Durham, at that time. So we got together with Riley Morningstar, was requested by the chairman, and tried to work through the other conditions, and went back, I don't remember the date, I think it was September, maybe the 13th or 14th, that we submitted a second invitation letter, and then the date was Tuesday that they had to respond by, and only Mr. Elliott and Mr. Davis had responded positively for that.
Sorry?
Okay. All right, any other? Yes. Jason?
So they either have the town hall or just 2 county councilmen, if they're the only 2 that decide to show up?
I'm sorry, I may have misunderstood your question. Or will we?
Since there's only 2 councilmen that agree to do the town hall, are they going to continue with the town hall?
Yes, it's going to go. It will go.
So how did we get to this precarious situation of the town hall to begin with? What started that?
Questions about the budget?
So we had a resolution came here that wanted to give accolades to the county council about the budget before the budget was approved. And now the budget's changed 17 times. Are we, now it's more, I understand now the budget is more than it was before when it was proposed. And there's been all kind of changes. Are we still looking to offer accolades in this event? Or, and why did that resolution come up and start all this to begin with?
Okay, so before we would go into that, I would say I need to hear a motion from the floor to open discussion about that, to entertain that question.
Which question?
Entertain his question about how did we get to this, why did we get to this point? Why did we get to this point? We got to this point because we took 2 votes. But do we need to go back and rehash that really, or can we just move forward with the 2?
I think we should go back and rehash it. I mean, we had.
All right, so I have a motion for Mr. Haney to open the discussion for that. Do I have a second?
A second.
Second. Ms. Lancaster from Walla 2. All in favor, open discussion on the town hall. Okay, it's open. Who would have the first comment? Would that be Mr. Haney?
I guess. So.
And everybody, just to be clear, everybody knows where I stand on this. I've spoken at the town hall. Okay, if you don't know where I stand, just pick the paper up.
For those who missed what had transpired, we actually had a conference call, and we decided to have, no, I'm sorry, we actually had, yeah, let's back it up to our meeting here. The original meeting, we had a motion passed.
There's minutes for this too, by the way.
Did we adopt those minutes?
Yes, those minutes were adopted.
We actually had a motion that passed for the previous chair and the existing chair. And it's my understanding that they agreed to that.
They did.
We went into do what?
They did.
Okay. Then we went into a conference call, emergency conference call, for amendment to the motion that passed. And we decided to bring them all. We was deceived in that conference call because we had incorrect information told to us.
I don't want to take accusations. I want to just have a flat discussion.
Well, I'm telling you, I was deceived in that conference call because...
Mickey, I don't want to take accusations. I want a flat discussion.
This is
okay?
a discussion about...
Flat discussion, no accusations.
So, come to find out that we were misfed information,
Mickey,
and that the lawyer was never contacted about the warrant.
Mickey, I want to ask you to close the discussion from that standpoint.
Okay.
And nobody ever claimed to contact the lawyer. Okay.
Yes, they did. We got it recorded.
Okay. Well, if they did, it was an error.
Well,
the chair, and it would have came from me, and the chairman did not ever say that. No, you did not. But I'm telling you, what's that?
I said the hit dog barks, doesn't it?
Well, yeah, you started the bark. Okay. So
from there, we took that under consideration when voting on that motion. So it's under a false pretense. So therefore, that motion should die. We should go back to, my motion is to go back to the original motion that passed, have a town hall that's going to discuss the pros and cons of both budgets so we can get an understanding. Instead of having a pissing match and trying to bring up here and belittle our representatives. Let's really dig into
Mickey, that's a time limit right there too. All right. All right, that's an argument against the process that was put in place where the vote came about for the whole town hall to be part of it. Ms. Meyer?
My recollection is that there was discussion to have 2 because we were told, and it may have been Mr. Haney, I do not recall, who said that they were concerned that there would be a quorum if we had all 5. And that is why we backed down to 2, but there was discussion that we really wanted all 5.
Okay, that was an argument or point of misinformation in another direction. Okay. Mr. Bond?
I really think that this whole thing goes back to that original resolution about the accolades for the council members and their fabulous budgeting that destroyed whatever Ms. Brock and the county did. and created something last minute on the budget that has completely turned around and now is totally different from what was on the napkin. So why did we have that resolution in the first place? That's my whole point. That resolution started the whole thing.
Thank you, Mr. Vaughn. Mr. Nixwell Hall.
Okay, so going back to the original meeting, the original motion passed to have the chairman and the ex-chairman, both on opposite sides of the budget debate, come to this meeting.
Correct.
And for some reason, we decided to change that. I don't understand why, because we discussed in that meeting that there was a concern with the quorum. That wasn't me that brought that up. That was somebody across the room. And so Mickey withdrew his motion to bring everybody, and we voted through the original motion to have the two people that really need to discuss the budget. Now you guys are going to get two people that aren't really the architects of the budget coming here to discuss it. Really what you want is you want Mr. Durham and you want Mr. Elliott. Durham is the architect of the budget. He worked with the staff to build the budget. He's the guy you guys need to ask questions to. So I don't know why we can't work through the original motion and invite him.
Okay. Do I have another discussion point? Mr. Wagner.
I don't really care how the original motion came up, but the original idea was to get the two people that were on opposite sides. And I don't see that it's going to do us much good to have two people on the same side here. That it's not going to accomplish much. If it's possible to go back to the original motion and have Durham and Elliott, that would be my recommendation.
Thank you, John. Doug?
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, Durham was invited, wasn't he? And he just didn't.
And he accepted, right?
This is Mr. Music. Doug?
Yeah.
He was invited. There was an invitation twice. He accepted the first one. He did not respond to the second one. The second one was modified such that to get everyone to come. Mr. Durham's response originally was to accept with him and Mr. Elliott only. Okay, but when we extended it to the entire county council, Mr. Durham, Mr. Myers, and Mr. Hart did not respond favorably to coming. Ms. Lancaster, did you have something to say?
I'm just trying to wrap my head around all of this. So the three most conservative men on the board that should be willing to come to a town hall that represents the majority of their constituents is in this party. And he agreed in the beginning to come, but now he doesn't want to because he'll have three on the platform versus two. And I can remember in the past, they wouldn't come to a party meeting unless they had three people to back up their stance. And now they have it, and they're choosing not to be transparent and open to their constituents. Kind of goes against what we believe in, less government transparency.
Thank you, Ms. Lancaster. Mr. Adams?
One thing I agree with Mr. Bond, though, believe it or not, right? His original question is how did we get here? That's the problem. It's an issue of stuff. All whatever, I'm not going to get in the way.
I can't
All
hear
whatever
that.
that happens between now and then, no problem.
Can you speak up, Tony? They can't hear you.
All the problem is what happened between the original motion that was approved in July and then whatever all that mess would have happened in the middle. So many questions. Just like Nikki brought up, there's a lot of questions. The answer is probably somewhere in the middle, but it's a mess. We need to go back to the original one that was approved in July.
Okay. One other. Ms. Mason?
Doesn't the town hall allow you to any of these questions forward? Like, hey, this was what we had on this date, what happened, why did it change? Isn't that a question that can be submitted and has to be presented?
You can submit any question related to county government business. That's the conditions or the format of the town hall. So that wouldn't really relate to county government business, I would think, so they probably wouldn't answer that. Well, that would be struck by Riley. I'm just assuming. Mr. Bond, your last comment on this one.
So as it currently stands, the town hall is open to all of those members.
Correct.
So they don't all have to come. They've all been invited. And if Mr. Durham wants to come and receive our accolades and praises for a job well done on the budget he's finally fixed that affords the county what it's supposed to have, and it is very close to the original budget that was proposed by Ms. Brock, only just been moved around, he should come and allow us to do that.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Rochester.
But 3 is a quorum.
Three is a quorum.
So that's where
No, that's been completely straightened out.
I was just answering him.
Can I respond to that? There's been 4 opportunities in the last month that they've been at a quorum, the Apple Festival lunch. They've put 2 companies together. They've done this quorum 3 at a time. Several questions.
How many questions were they asked?
Who
about
knows?
this? The budget?
Who knows? They would be open to it.
So, all right, Tony, you have one last comment?
Okay. The budget's been massaged all the time.
Can you speak up, Tony, because I know they can't hear you over there.
The budget has been massaged or amended several times. It should be close to the end. It's not, I think it is, 3rd reading. So, it's said, they got something in concrete to discuss now. You've got a pro and a con on the budget. Now, we changed the goal lines. I know I talked with John about this. John said, well, I just want to hear what my district representatives got to say. Well, that wasn't what part of the original thing. The original thing was we just want to discuss the budget. And at that time, the budget wasn't really set. It was a temporary budget. When the first reading of it, Mr. Garrett gave them instructions to go back and look at it and come back with a budget that matched inflation and growth in the county. And they did that. It went from 60 million to 65.2 million. Then they cut it back to 64.4 on the apples to houses before they set aside different funds. We've got the budget set now. Evans was against it. Harrison was for it. Let's put it together and have it, and lay this to rest, and quit arguing about it.
Well, we're not going to argue about it because it's going to happen. It's going to happen on the 10th, and everybody's still invited. And the chairman's position is very clear. You don't have a town hall with a county council and limit it to just 2 people when there is not a question of quorum and them being there. That's been resolved. So if there's no legitimate legal reason that they cannot be there, then you don't have a 40% town hall.
You approved it in July.
We did approve it based on the question of quorum, and it was originally brought up. The motion came to the floor because of the resolution. Yes.
Mr. Chairman, I personally spoke with Mr. Root, who is the county attorney. His words to me were, there are certain conditions that you must meet.
Yes.
If there's 5, 7, 10, or 12 of the council can come to a town hall, and it is legal. I don't know what quorum means and all that stuff, but he said it is legal. It is not illegal. He said you had to advertise it, you had to have a place, you had to have your questions, and you had to invite the public. He said that's all you have to do, and all councilmen are legal to come.
Thank you, Mr. Burrow. Okay. All right. We got that aired out Probably not for some, probably yes for others, but can I have a motion to close discussion on that?
Motion to close discussion.
Second? All in favor? Aye. All right. Thank you. New business, upcoming events. So we have September 27th. Anybody know what's going on that day? Presidential debate. So,
Party at your house?
no, watch party at my house. But there is a watch party. There is a watch party at the Never Back Down in Greenville. If you want to go to Wild Wings in Greenville, that's DeSantis's pack, I guess, maybe is that the right way to say it. So there is a watch party in Greenville at the Wild Wing if you'd like to go to that. So right now you have Christie, DeSantis, Haley, Pence, Ramaswamy, and Scott. They've all satisfied the requirements. Am I correct for that September 27th debate? Trump, he's not going. Everybody know where he's going? To meet with the United Auto Workers in Detroit. So he's got his work cut out for him. I heard that as a prerequisite to attending the meeting, you got to read the book, Art of the Deal. I'm a geek, I like that. But that's going to be interesting if he can iron something out. I'll tell you, folks, if that big three strike goes down, there's no good look at that either way. If you look at what they're demanding and the impact it's going to have on the country. So I would encourage everybody to go or watch that one way or the other, because we're learning a lot about these candidates. It doesn't matter where you stand. They're all Republicans. We all should be openly interested in what they have to say, because whoever wins the election, somebody's going to be coming up behind them, and we need to know where they stand going forward. Okay, September 30th, we have a state executive committee meeting. Terry and myself, we're not sure about our schedule yet, but we'll be there. Oconee will be represented there. We'll be taking the resolutions that we have, both of them now, and hopefully those will be submitted and they'll come to the floor. The next thing, I've started doing something on the first and third Saturday called the Political Brew. If you want to get into a discussion about politics, it's open to everybody. And we were moving it around, but we're going to stay home at the Seneca Family Restaurant because they are more central to the county. And that starts at 8:30 and it runs to 9:30 or whenever we quit. And the first person there I buy coffee for. So, and that's been Kathy the first time. And who was it? I don't remember who it was the second time. But it's just a good opportunity for us to get together as Republicans. That was something, the Seneca Family Restaurant was something that was done previously by the party. It was just during the week, and you know, most of us have jobs. So Saturday morning at 8:30, if you want to come have a discussion with fellow Republicans, or there might be some Democrats show up, you never know. So okay. October 21st and 22nd is Oktoberfest, so we'll have more information on that. Obviously, if we're not able to sell, we don't need as many people. But for those people that would like to participate and volunteer for Oktoberfest, please respond to the website. Just say, hey, or your district director, and say, hey, I'm willing to volunteer some time, because Walhalla has a requirement that booth is manned from the start of the show till the end of the show, and it ends late.
Midnight.
So we're required to be there, and we need some volunteers for that. Yes.
I'll send out a link to the calendar to sign up.
Okay. Kathy will send out a link to the calendar to sign up like we did for the Apple Festival. Terry, you want to give us an update on the Lindsey Graham Town Hall?
Oh, donuts. So this started, y'all, in August 5th, and we finally have agreement because Mr. Graham's staff put it upon us that it had to be a tri-county thing, so to try to get something with 3 counties put together plus the senator's schedule. So, sorry it's not the greatest date in the world, but it is going to be Tuesday, November 21st. So that is the Tuesday before Thanksgiving. It is going to be at the Pickens Performing Arts Center, that is in Liberty. We got a really great price through the chairman of Pickens. It's only $300 for a venue that holds 600 people. So we're very excited about that. Can I please have a show of hands of people who want to attend that, because we're really trying to plan logistics. And we really, guys, this is our chance to hold this guy accountable for votes that he has made. So I encourage you, this is why we're here. I really encourage you to attend and come up with really good questions. It does have to remain respectful, and decorum will be enforced, okay? So by show of hands, who is considering going to that event?
What time?
It'd be 6:30 to about 8 o'clock.
And there will be other people in the county going as well, I know.
Okay, thank you.
Again, this was a joint effort by Pickens, Anderson, Bob Federley, Jonathan Hill, and Terry to pull this town hall off. It was like pulling teeth with the senator. Yes, question?
Yeah, is there any funding coming from us going to support that?
$100.
100 smackaroos. That's our part in it. Other than that, we're hoping the senator will provide his own security, because usually they do.
We got some good security.
It might be outside of their jurisdiction, but they can still rub somebody up.
We'll probably send an email out about that, and if you guys could please promote that within your precincts and get any kind of numbers.
I'll tell them all.
I told them, I said I thought we could be good for 75. I sure would like to see that.
I think Oconee County is going to be good for 75 at that event. All right, the next thing is events committee. We're going to resurrect this committee, and so we're going to seek volunteers for the events committee, and we'd really like to have one from each district to help us plan along with the district directors. At least one from each district. Did I say that right? Okay. So if you're interested in being part of the events committee, please let Rachel know. And the next meeting, we'll finalize who that committee is and to work on the next event. Hopefully it'll be a fundraiser. Okay. Yes, question?
Mickey, did you make an amendment to go back to the original?
I did.
Two-person, is that ever addressed?
No.
I don't think you stated it as an amendment.
He didn't state it as a motion.
Actually, I did say it as a motion.
You stated it as a motion? I'm sorry, I didn't hear that motion. Okay, so we're going all the way back to the October 10th, October 12th, Oconee County Council Town Hall. So we have a motion. What is that motion, Mickey?
To go back to the previous past motion that we had in our CXC meeting.
Well, can you restate that for clarity?
That was for the prior chairman and the existing chairman to be at the town hall.
Okay, so the motion on the floor from Mr. Haney and Salem is to revert back to the original motion, or the original plan, I should say, which was approved to only have Durham and Elliott at the town hall. All right, that's the motion on the floor. Do I have a second?
Second.
Do we need to really, all right, I have a second. Thank you, Mr. Adams. Do we really need to open the floor for discussion again? Yes, I do, I guess. Vote to open the floor for discussion. I'm going to say yes or no?
Yes.
No, I need approval to vote open the floor for discussion. So we have
You asked me for so moved.
no, I think I need a vote to open the floor for discussion, do I not?
Yeah.
I need a vote to open the floor for discussion. Is that correct?
Amendment.
Not an amendment? Okay, sorry.
Discussion automatically happens.
Okay, Mr. Wagner.
Okay, you have two people that have already accepted. I would be in favor of going back to just the original two, but you're going to have to tell one of these other folks that they're off the hook. If that's, I would support going back to the original, but I don't know if you can have all three there.
Okay. If I might add a little, there's no problem with Mr. Davis not being there. He has no problem with that. So it would be Mr. Elliott and Mr. Durham. That was the original plan. All right, Rainey?
I guess I'd like to amend Mickey's amendment to say any two. It doesn't have to be Mr. Elliott and Mr. Durham, just any two people from either side, there's two positions, and let the council choose who they want to come down here to defend their position.
Okay, so we have the original motion, then we have an amended motion, which is what? Let the council decide.
Let the council decide who they want to send. If they want to send Glenn Hart and Julian Davis, or they want to send Don Mize and Julian Davis, or Durham and Elliott, whoever wants to come, if they want to send two people, they send two people.
Okay, do I have a second on the amendment to the motion? Do I have a second for that? Hearing no second, that sits. All right, now we're back to the original motion from Mr. Haney to go back to Durham and Elliott for the town hall.
I do have a question. I don't recall what the meeting format was for that original motion that passed. Was it, we submit the questions like we did for the two?
I'll clarify that, those were conditions, those were all set out.
Newspaper involvement, and just have it here, just like we did for the two congressmen, state congressmen?
No, because Mr. Durham wouldn't agree to that. He said Riley Moore had to be the moderator. That letter's on the website, you can read it.
Okay, so then the format, part of Mickey's motion would have to be the format as part of that, correct? Not just people attending, but the format of the meeting, which will be Riley Moore to start reading questions and whatever.
Well, I think we're gonna open up. But basically, Riley wouldn't agree to do it to what Chairman Durham.
I just don't recall, I think we voted on the format of the meeting in the original motion.
No, we didn't vote on the format. We only voted on who was coming.
Who's coming?
Okay. The format had to be agreed to by the council. Okay, Jason?
So from the sound of everything, what's going to end up happening is we're either going to have a town hall with Mr. Elliott, Mr. Davis, that's it, or we'll have it with Mr. Durham.
As it stands right now. If we go back. Okay, another, Ms. Lancaster.
I ask that we leave it to all five. I think actions speak louder than words, and this is a time for us to hold them accountable for their votes. And this is going to be a huge picture for this whole party on who shows up and who doesn't show up.
Thank you, Ms. Lancaster. Mr. Music.
I think Republican principles, if we're going to have a town hall, we're in favor of open government, and it should be an invitation for any of the councilmen, and if they choose not to show up, that speaks volumes.
Okay.
Second that.
Don't have a motion, but okay. Mr. Tilson.
So I'll just say going back to Elliott and Durham, neither one of those folks represent me. We've addressed the quorum issues. It's no longer an issue. I would prefer to hear what my representative has to say about the principle. Neither one of those are my representative.
Okay.
I won't vote for Joe Biden.
I won't vote for Joe Biden either.
He said go back.
Oh, okay. That's what I heard. All right. Any other?
Close the discussion.
I have a motion to close the discussion. Second. All in favor? Aye. All right, the motion on the floor from Salem, Mr. Haney, is to revert back to the original plan with just Elliott and Durham. Okay, a yes would be to revert back. A no would be we leave the invitation open to everybody. And even though the deadline has passed Tuesday, if they decide to come, they can come. All All right, we're not going to exclude them. If they show up, they show up. I would prefer they would. Okay, so the vote on the floor is yes to go back, no to leave it the way it is. All right, can I have show of hands, yes to go back to the original Elliott-Durham matchup? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 7 to go back. To leave it the way it is, no, we're not changing it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. 16. Did anybody abstain?
You got
One. Oh, sorry. David. All right, so the motion does not carry.
Can I jump in here, new business?
New business, yes.
It's a statement, you can take it however you want. I prefer to not conduct party business on Zoom. If we need to do it face to face sitting here, and we don't have emergencies, we're not firing one of the policemen. So, you know what I'm saying, right? Do it face to face and sit down with each other.
Okay.
Make a motion that we adopt that.
Sorry, I have a second. Wait. All in favor, is this that motion?
How about some discussion first?
All right, some discussion.
I agree with Josh that we should do face-to-face business, but there may be opportunities for the leadership and other committees that want to still use Zoom to that without coming together and having the buildings to do that. So I think that we need to modify that the EC should not meet on Zoom. That this meeting should be held safely, and then the others can do business as it's needed.
Well, that's kind of what I mean.
Well, I mean, the motion was, just wanted to make it clear.
So the motion is then that the executive committee meets face to face as a rule. Okay. We do not do Zoom calls going forward. Okay. There were complications that's for sure. Yes, do you have a discussion point, Ms. Lancaster?
So if an emergency, if new information is brought forward, then something needs to be discussed and voted on, how are you gonna handle it?
Then we call the meeting. So if we would call the meeting by the rules, which means that the 3 or 5 precincts would need to call the meeting, agree that the meeting needs to be called. And then we would call the meeting, we would have to have a quorum, and then we take vote. Okay? All right.
Then that's additional expense.
It's an additional expense.
Not every meeting has to be in a building. It has to be in the parking lot, it's an emergency.
So, all right, so that's the motion on the floor. It's got a second. Kind of a motion to close discussion.
Motion for discussion.
Okay. Second? All right, let's vote for a yes vote would be this committee only makes decisions and votes face to face. Unless there is, well, no, there's no exceptions. There would be the opportunity for the precincts to call the meeting based on the number of precincts wanting to discuss it. So the motion is yes, we're going to leave this face-to-face discussion for votes only. All in favor? I see that being unanimous. Unanimous that the executive committee only votes on business and face-to-face format. All right, any other new business that we need to discuss? Thank you, Mr. Owens. Any other new business? All right. The last thing is to confirm the date then for the October 19th meeting. Anybody have a problem with that meeting? Date? That will be our next meeting, and that is people are encouraged to wear purple for Domestic Violence Awareness Day, and donations will be accepted for Safe Harbor in Seneca. Okay, on that meeting date. It's not a demand, just, I don't even think I got anything purple, and you're going to have to buy some. So wear purple if you can for the next meeting. All right, now we're going to have a little time for public comment. So for those people that are in the audience, if you'd like to make a comment.
The question was answered.
Okay. Anybody else that would have? Yes, Mr. Moore?
I was excited to be here tonight, but for the last 2 months I have not been notified of any of the meetings or the minutes for the agendas of this meeting. I would like to see, I thought, my understanding was that the precincts were going to pass that information to all the members of the precinct. And I have not received that for 2 months. And I'd like to see that change as soon as possible. Thank you.
And what precinct are you in?
Oh, that's Mountain Rest.
Okay. All right, so I know Mountain Rest has a new secretary.
John Morgan,
John Morgan.
48@gmail.com.
So can we get that can you give that to Kathy?
I certainly will.
And
As far as, I don't know what happened, I haven't seen y'all at the precinct meetings in a while, so.
But it doesn't matter that we,
We'll get it clarified.
we're the leaders.
We'll get it done.
Yes, Ms. Meyer.
Wondering, just a discussion, I know sometimes there's questions in some of the precincts of, is this something that I need to distribute to everybody, or is this something that was just sent to me? So is it a problem if we send it out to all the Forum 1 members, such as our meeting notices with all of that? Would that be a problem, or do you want to try to just keep it with the precincts? That's a question. Would you rather leadership send out it to everybody, or would you rather the precincts send it down?
Mr. Wagner?
I sent an email to everybody in my precinct and said, I will notify you if I think it's something important. If you want to receive everything I get, respond to me and let me know that. Not a single person wanted to receive everything.
All right. So, in other words, what John's saying is the executive committee should probably filter information. And based on the executive committee,
Well, it's up to the precinct. The precinct should contact the people. If they find people that want everything, give it to them.
Okay. So that would not change anything that we're doing. Mike?
Yeah, no, just a comment, right? So one of the things that we're trying to do is build up the precinct organization, right? And the more we centralize that by sending out from, the executive leadership team and the rest, we're going to be able to do that. So in order to do that, I think it's incumbent upon the precincts to build that organization by sending the material to their members.
All right, precinct, yeah, I would probably agree with that. Steve, did you have something?
Yeah, quick question. What is the time for the council town hall on October 10th?
That time hasn't been set. It'll be advertised in the paper, but that time.
It'll be in the evening.
It'll be here.
It'll be in the evening here.
I think the target start time is the same as this, which is 6:30,
Okay.
but that has not been confirmed yet.
All right.
Okay. Yes.
Jim,
Scott?
I know this is just a little bit late, but everybody interested in the child trafficking and how the state of South Carolina is taking care of that should read the Attorney General's report on that. I believe our state is doing an extremely thorough job of taking care of that problem at our state level. There are regional law enforcement people dedicated to child trafficking. There's a child trafficking task force that's set up at the state level. There are education programs set up for high schools in the state, and I think this resolution that was being forwarded now to the state is kind of a waste of time. I'm sorry. That's what I feel.
That's why we have opportunity for public comment.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, anybody else?
Adjourn.
All right, I have a motion to adjourn. Second. Thank you. Thank you, everybody.